might be important during the holiday season, not to overdo food, but actually eat something that's going to help you through stressful times. So we have a list of things that we're going to ask Dr. Saunders about. There's an article on the Home Cures at Work website that you can reference. So I'm going to start off with one of the very first foods listed here is Tulsi or holy basil. Do you want to talk about, Dr. Saunders, what that is and why you would even consider adding it or taking it this holiday season to stay stressed less?
Okay, there are some herbs that affect your adrenal glands, and holy basil is one of them. It's called an adaptogen, and one of the things that it does is allows the adrenal glands to adapt to stress in such a way that you don't get an excessive amount of adrenal hormones. Well, why is that important? It's because those stress hormones, if you're under stress for a period of time, they prevent good sleep. They suppress your immune system. You're more likely to get sick. They allow more like clotting in your arteries so that you can get arterial disease. Stress is not good for your body. And so something that holy basil, and there are several adaptogens that do this. Ashwagandha is very well known for this. Ginseng, and ginseng is not a single entity. There's actually a lot of different types of ginseng, and they're not even related, but they all are adaptogens. And so this holy basil, why would you consider it during Christmas? Well, some people stress out through Christmas, and there are various reasons for that of remembering old times, lost loved ones, things that have happened in the past, maybe, or not having connections with people, like missing your Christmas traditions that you had as a child, or whatever, those kinds of things. Trying to find the right present for that perfect present for that person that you love. I'm dealing with that right now. I'm going to go see all my kids. So after we do the Harry Potter Christmas, we're going to Virginia and to see all my grown children. I hardly see them, occasionally. And so I'm going to get a good gift from them. Well, I'm limited because I have to go on a plane, so it's not like I can bring big boxes and large things. So anyway, finding the right gift, that kind of stuff. So people stress out during this time, and in order to not be stressed, sometimes, you know what, you can temporarily use an herb, and holy basil is a good one.
So is this something you can just find at Walmart, or is this something you have to go to a specific like supplement store to find? And
It's very common, so I would expect that you could find it wherever they sell supplements.
okay. Now, another item on the list that I'm excited to talk about is dark chocolate. It's
Okay.
a feel-good food,
Did
but
you make that up, Cheryl?
no,
That's
I
not
didn't.
on there.
It is on the list, and it's connected to one other thing that's on the list. But why would you consider, I'm sure, in moderation, having a little bit of dark chocolate over the holidays to reduce some of that stress?
Well, it's interesting. Dark chocolate has things in it called methylxanthines. And so a lot of times people say, well, you should eat dark chocolate. It's good for you. And yes, it can be helpful in the same sort of way. It is sort of a pick-me-up, sort of a feeling better, having more energy kind of thing. And some people just need some more energy. And there's something to be said for wow, this makes me happy. When you have something that really tastes good, that you really enjoy, or you do something you really enjoy, and having that happy moment of wow, this picks me up and helps me to feel better, get through the day. There's a lot of benefit to that too.
How much dark chocolate are we talking about? I have one idea in my head.
Well, for me, it's one square. It's kind of like I used to go to ice cream store, and I would get a triple scoop, and I would like eat the whole thing because I really have a sweet tooth. Now I go to the ice cream store and the kids get a triple scoop, and I have one of those little taste spoons. Can I have one of those? Can I have one of those? And I get a couple of taste spoons, and I'm done, and I'm good. And so I don't know. It depends on where you are in life.
I remember years ago, we actually had someone write for Home Cures at work who lost a lot of weight, and the beaver, I forgot his full name. What's the beaver's full name? But he talked about your taste buds really only are activated on your first few bites. So he's like, you don't need to eat a whole bowl of ice cream, just you actually lose the taste and satisfaction the more bites you have. So just a few will do.
That's true. That's true. When I was a scoutmaster, the Boy Scouts, we play a game, and I would have Skittles, and I really did have a sweet tooth, guys. I really did. I had Skittles all the time, and so we would play the Skittles game, and the Skittles game was you have to close your eyes, and you put one Skittle in their mouth, and they have to guess what color it is by the flavor, just by the flavor. Nobody ever got past four. So they could guess up to four. Four Skittles. After four Skittles, they couldn't even tell whether it was a green one or a purple one or a yellow one. They couldn't even tell. And so, like you said, after the first couple of bites, you're lost your taste anyway. So why eat more than that?
Right.
And then there was a question on here: is the dark chocolate going to mess up my blood sugar? And it might, but if you have a little bit, it's not going to be a big deal.
Well, one of the items that's listed here is magnesium rich food. So I thought um, dark chocolate had magnesium in it, but it doesn't.
Oh yeah, it does.
Does?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It has a significant amount of magnesium. Yeah. So, and magnesium does help you feel better and relax. And you know what? A lot of people are deficient in magnesium. So yeah, that would be another one.
Okay. Let's see what else is on the list. Oh, so someone asked, how should you take Tulsi? What form is holy basil? Tea?
Yes.
Yes.
Tea. There's capsules, there's extracts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you can get the whole herb.
So one of the things on this list is tea itself. So it says green, black, white, or oolong teas because they have L-theanine in them. So why would you want to take L-theanine to help reduce anxiety?
Okay, so the teas, yeah, any kind, even black tea and oolong tea. The green tea is lower in caffeine, but still has the L-theanine. And one nice thing about theanine is it increases your sensitivity to GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, which is the relaxation neurotransmitter. And neurotransmitter is how the nerve cells talk to each other, and they talk in different ways. And this is really, really interesting. So if you know how a computer works on a yes no. So that the impulse comes here and it's yes or no. It's open or closed. If it's closed, you go this way. If it's open, you go this way. And then that impulse goes. It finds your memory thing, and then it goes back. That's where it's supposed to be. It's always on a yes or no basis. Your nervous system is not on a yes or no basis. There's a whole conversation going on as to whether that particular cell should fire or not. So you have relaxing neurotransmitters saying, no, we don't need to get excited about this. And then we have excitatory neurotransmitters saying, yeah, 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 go, 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 go. And so the go, go, go ones are things like glutamate, like MSG, things like epinephrine, norepinephrine, adrenaline. Those are the ones that are the go, 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 go. And then there's the relaxing ones that say, calm down, it's okay. And one of those is GABA. And so this L-theanine helps you be more sensitive to GABA. So you have more of your talking is more relaxing and slow down. It's okay, and that helps people sleep and relax.
So what other foods would have L-theanine in it?
I don't know. I mean, as far as, I don't know.
Well,
There's
it
a lot
looks
of magnesium. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I think a lot of tea in general has L-theanine in
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people take a supplement, they take a pill.
Mm.
I know we had gotten some magnesium from a partner of ours that had L-theanine in it. I see those two together a lot. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up, I guess. I did really like that magnesium. I slept really well when I took it.
I was going to say something that I've taken to help to go to sleep has L-theanine in it as well.
Oh.
So,
Hmm.
If it was BioOptimizers, I think
yeah,
it was. Anyway.
good.
Mushrooms have L-theanine in them.
Oh,
And
Oh.
matcha tea, green tea. Tea is the main dietary source of L-theanine, but not all mushrooms contain L-theanine.
Hmm.
Huh. Interesting.
all right. One other item on the list is moringa leaf. So if you don't know, moringa is a plant. I'm down in Florida that actually grows, and a lot of people grow it around here. They actually eat the seeds of the moringa, say it's very beneficial. I don't know much about moringa, whether or not I should eat the seeds or take it as a supplement or tea. But it is a plant. It says here on this article that you can take it in powder form as a tea, but why would you even consider taking moringa leaf?
Moringa has multiple effects on the body, and the way it affects is primarily in the stress system, the adrenal system, to act as sort of a calming agent for adrenaline and epinephrine and norepinephrine. And so, because it affects this one system, it has multiple effects on the body. Multiple effects because these hormones, these stress hormones, have multiple damages to the body. They do a lot of damage all over the body, and so the moringa having that relaxing effect has multiple benefits. They've used it for cancer, heart disease, and stress induced illnesses of all kinds.
I saw joint pain even as a list for that as well.
Yeah.
Diabetes, inflammation. So
Inflammation.
how do you take it then? Same as the others?
Yeah. However, I don't know. Because it's an herb, it comes in different forms. So
Right.
you can get extracts or whole herb supplements. It depends on how it comes.
Okay.
I have friends who actually just take the seed of the moringa and pop it. They said it's really bitter though to take, so
Okay.
not with chocolate. I'm right now thinking chocolate and tea is how to relax this during the holiday season.
That's all I've heard so far.
Yeah, really. It all comes back down. Okay, to a few other things though. Turmeric. Why would you add turmeric to your diet this time of year?
Turmeric is also it's an herb. It's a root, and the ground up turmeric has something in it called curcumin. And curcumin, it has multiple effects on the body for decreasing inflammation. So for people that have inflammation, it's also really good for people who have too much iron. So, we're often told that, anemia is a bad thing. Anemia is actually kind of rare. Not very many people have anemia, and a lot of people have too much iron, and too much iron causes inflammation. And so if you take turmeric every day with every meal, you're going to decrease the absorption of iron. And so people who have even hemochromatosis, which is a hereditary illness they absorb too much iron and they have really high levels of hemoglobin, and their blood is extra thick and they get clots forming, and they get a lot of inflammation from that, and it can damage the brain, the nervous system. And so there's several ways that turmeric decreases inflammation and can be used on a daily basis by people who have too much iron. You should test first, because some people don't have enough iron, and in which case turmeric should be used occasionally and not daily. If you have too much iron, and the way you tell is when you do an iron study, there's something called TIBC, total iron binding capacity. And then there's a percentage. And that percent should be around 20%. If it's below 10%, then that's too low. If it's above 30%, then that's too high. And so it should be somewhere around 20%.
We have a turmeric supplement. We offer it as part of well, for many reasons, partly to help reduce blood pressure, reduce inflammation in the body. It can help overall inflammation. One of my favorite things though to take when I'm feeling a little stressed is actually fermented foods. I love some kombucha. I love some yogurt. Why? Because it helps my gut. There's a huge, as we know, huge gut-brain connection. You want to talk about fermented foods and why they would actually help reduce like anxiety or stress, increase a good mood, decrease a bad mood?
Yeah, that's really interesting because there are certain things in fermented foods that you find that you don't find in foods that are not fermented. Vitamin K, for example, vitamin K2 is only found in fermented foods. Vitamin K helps you to use calcium properly, for example. But there's also certain amino acids and substances that decrease inflammation that are found from the bacteria. So it's the I hate to say it's the waste products from the bacteria. The bacteria make these the proteins, amino acids, and substances like butyric acid, butyrates, for example. And what they do is decrease inflammation. And if you heard me talk about GABA, GABA, that's gamma aminobutyric acid. That's made from butyric acid. So the fermented foods are often people feel good eating them, and they have a relaxing effect.
Someone just asked if they can watch the replays, and I was just going to quick mention that you can go to bartonwebinar.com. That'll link you to our YouTube channel, so you can go back and rehear that you should eat more chocolate and drink tea in case you needed to hear it again. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. And good fermented food options are sauerkraut, kimchi, apple cider vinegar, yogurt, as we mentioned before. Leslie, do you have any favorite fermented food?
I have some bad fermented food things that I like right now because they have added sugar in them. But I love fermented carrots. I love them. Fermented or not fermented, I'm sorry, pickled. That's why there's sugar in those. Some
pickled things are fermented.
Pickles are good too. What was the other thing? Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know the difference between some of the pickled and the fermented things too, because like I really love beets and asparagus, and I don't really know how long or what determines if they're fermented versus they just put sugar in there. Sometimes I wonder. I'm not sure. Really, I can eat anything that's fermented, I think.
Yeah.
I enjoy just like onions. Sometimes I ferment onions by putting apple cider or some vinegar on them and letting them sit on the counter with some, like Italian seasoning, and then add them to whatever foods I'm eating raw. Love that.
I do like sauerkraut. I will buy sauerkraut. I think there's a brand. If you don't make it yourself, there's a brand. I think is it Bubbies or something like that. And that's a good refrigerated fermented sauerkraut. And it is very good. I do like kimchi. I do like a lot of those. I don't know if you have to get past a certain age before you start to like them or how that works, but my kids love kombucha.
We used to make fun of Grandpa, stinky cheeses, and now I kind of like those stinky cheeses.
I know. I think about all those little candies I used to get at Christmas 20 years ago, and I'm like, oh no, I like those now. That's so bad. That means I've gotten old. Oh. Or I'll pass up the chocolate chip cookies and I'll want, like a butterscotch round instead. And I'm like, who even am I right now?
Yeah, right. Just don't put them in little glass dishes around your house. That means
Yes.
that you
Yep.
have passed on to a different generation if you're
I
doing that.
know. I know. It happens. Anyway, okay. Rita says that I use double matcha tea with
Hmm.
dark chocolate green tea swizzles. So a
Swizzle?
double matcha tea with dark chocolate green tea. Okay.
Hmm.
Marion says about a month ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at 79 years old. Chemo and radiation are totally out for me. I'm currently using ivermectin at night, which helps me a lot. How do we know how often and how much to use? My pills are 12 milligrams. I weigh around 190 pounds.
Okay. It seems like there's a point at which ivermectin in the low dose is for parasites, and when it's in a higher dose, it affects the energy systems of your own cells, which include especially cancer cells. So it isn't enough just to take a 12 milligram dose, because that would be enough to get rid of parasites, but not really enough to deal with the metabolism of cancer. It seems like 1 milligram per kilogram, which is if you weigh roughly 70 kilograms, then you're talking about a 70 milligram dose a day, which you do for 5 days, and then you're off for a week, and then you do it for another 5 days. So there's it's not that you take it consistently. There was one study where they did 30 days in a row, 1 milligram per kilogram, 30 days in a row. And that was helpful, but I don't think that was breast cancer. I don't remember what cancer that was. Anyway, yeah.
I was just going to quick say also, in case the disclaimer was not already put out
I
there.
did not say that.
Okay. So Dr. Saunders is a doctor, of course, but he's not your medical doctor. So we just ask that you consult with your professionals before you implement any of the things that we're talking about here today, because we don't know your exact situation.
Mhm.
We did do another webinar, I think, on ivermectin, didn't we? Did I make that up? I think we did.
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Yeah. Or we talked about it at some point, I think.
Mhm.
But I'm assuming, Marion, then you're working with a doctor. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the doctor, actually, if you are. That's good to know.
I was going to say one of the things that's not on the list is kava. Have you heard much about kava root, whether that's good for anxiety or stress?
Yeah, kava actually works really well. It's been used for centuries, and it's great for stress. It relaxes anxiety, and there was some reports that it was toxic, but it turns out that really wasn't the case. That was contamination, and it wasn't actually toxic. So yeah, kava is useful. It's a good herb, and it's great for stress and anxiety. A lot of people use it for sleep. Like it helps them to relax and go to sleep at night.
Interesting. Okay. I know there's a lot of different drinks out there too with kava. Is that where they have the kava bars too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. What was this next? Are olives fermented?
Olives. I don't know. I don't think so. I think they're just processed, and they have to be processed with a whole lot of salt to otherwise they're toxic. If you eat raw olives, they're not good for you at all. You need to have all that salt. They just put a lot of salt in them.
How about wine? Wine's fermented.
Yeah.
Wine is fermented. Yeah. Yeah.
What is the difference between fermented and pickled, Dr. Saunders?
Okay, so fermented is where they allow the bacteria and or yeast to grow in it, and so you're getting like with wine or vinegar, And if you get ever Bragg's vinegar has the mother in it, and the mother is all of the yeast stuff and all of that with it. I don't know if that's particularly good for you or not, but the fermentation process is the bacteria and yeast are taking the sugar and making it into organic acids. In the case of vinegar, it's acetic acid. In the case of wine, it's alcohol. It's not an acid, it's alcohol. It just that's the way. So fermentation versus pickling, and pickling is just packed in salt. Essentially, it's just a saltwater brine and vinegar. They usually use vinegar too, but they don't necessarily have the bacteria or yeast growing in it. Although some pickles are fermented.
And someone asked, how long do you leave the apple cider vinegar and onions on the counter? A couple days before I would use them. Gives them a good fermenting time. I've also tried a ginger bug, which is fermenting ginger with water and sugar. And it's a little bit sweeter, but then it's kind of like its own, it's like a kind of kombucha, simpler. And then you can make like, it's again, you can add more water, and then it's a fermented drink to help that helps the gut. Especially since it's high in ginger.
Ray says I eat spirulina and chlorella algae. What would be the effect on the body from those?
What's really it depends on what you would need. So, for example, chlorella and spirulina are often used for heavy metal detox. So, if you have mercury in your body, that's a great way to get rid of the heavy metals. It'll take them out. But on top of that, it also adds in things that you won't get otherwise. There's something called fucose that's found in them, which is a sugar that helps grow the good bacteria in your intestines. So that can be helpful. So, yeah.
All right, Anonymous said, I have low vision. One day I was pouring boiling water into a cup and the kettle was inadvertently tilted and boiling water spilt over my hand.
Ouch.
I quickly ran cold water on my hand and quickly grabbed a low-level laser, LLL, and placed it on my hand. Within minutes after the laser completed cycling, I had no pain, no blistering, minimal redness. I was able to immerse my hand in water and do the dishes. The next day, there was absolutely no evidence of a burn. Is this light the same as red light?
Yeah, low-level laser light. Yeah, that's what it is. Red light therapy is a cold laser, LLL. Yeah, that's all red light therapy. Very interesting. So a burn. Gosh, you wouldn't expect that, but I guess it makes sense. Because the burn damages the tissues, and a low-level laser or the red light turns on the systems to rebuild it, repair it. So, wow, that's pretty cool.
All right, lost my question. Here we go. By the way, if you could post the questions in the Q&A, just a little bit easier for us to manage those. Thank you. I don't know what this question says. It says fermented, you still get ivermectin? Yes, ivermectin is still around. Actually, I think it's been around for a long time. What was it originally used for?
Parasites.
It was always parasites.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sib says, can you please ask Dr. Saunders if air-dried jackfruit would be a good snack? I found some at Costco and they are delicious. There are no additives and has 6 grams of sugar from the fruit.
Okay, so good question. Just look at the label and look at how much carbohydrates and then subtract the fiber. And so, yeah, 6 grams, great. Yeah, you could have the dried jackfruit and just count it as, if you're on phase 1, count it as your 20 grams of carbohydrate. So 6 grams, you have what, 14 grams left.
Assuming you're doing the diabetes solution kit or your Crown
Yeah.
and Carbs or whatever.
Right.
I found, you know what else I found at Costco that was really good was dried mangoes, but do not be fooled by them because they have a lot of sugar
Oh,
and they add sugar to it.
and
That's
they
the
add
shocking
sugar.
part. They have sold a couple different ones. Some of them is just mangoes that are dried, but there is another one that I tried for the first time and I was like, these are amazing. Yeah, because they're covered in sugar also.
Yeah.
Gosh, they get you.
And I've tried the mangoes with dark chocolate. Those are delicious too.
I've had those. I've had mangoes and dark chocolate. Okay. Let's see. Robert says, can Dr. Saunders consult patients remotely? You need to call his office. That's what I just tell everybody because it depends on where you live.
Yeah.
So probably not remotely, but you could call his office. I will post that number. Okay. Judy says, do most oncologists prescribe ivermectin?
No, not most. There are a few that do, but it's pretty hard for oncologists to go against the standard of care. So the standard of care is the outdated chemotherapy treatments that never worked in the first place. And that's the standard they have to go by. And so the ones that are integrative oncologists who are using ivermectin are like, it's not a chemotherapy agent. It is actually a anti-parasitic medication, really. But it inhibits the metabolism of cancer stem cells. So, so they're using it off-label, is what it's called. So the label says it's for this, but we're using it for a different purpose. And there are very few oncologists. They're integrative oncologists. If you look for them, you can find them around.
Paul said my wife was able to get her cholesterol down using red yeast rice, but now I see that Consumer Reports is saying not to use it as it's a natural statin. Comments?
Yeah, red rice yeast is a statin. That's what it is. And it always surprises me when people say I'm trying to get my cholesterol down. The optimum cholesterol level is 230. So if you're over 250, then you may consider that you want to bring it down. There are very few people who have cholesterol that high that red rice yeast would work for. And in that case, you would want to use red rice yeast. In other cases, people have a 210 cholesterol and they're using red rice yeast, and it's like, no, that's going to raise your mortality rate. You want to actually have your optimum level is around 230.
Don says, what is it about sourdough baking that makes it user friendly? And can I eat ancient grains like einkorn or spelt flours while reducing insulin resistance?
Yeah, no, it's not that easy. So you have to still count the carbs when you're trying to reduce insulin resistance because it's the carbohydrates that cause the release of insulin. Well, every time you eat, you release some insulin, but carbohydrates release a lot more insulin. So it's a good idea to avoid those kind of things if you want more insulin sensitivity.
Right. Let's see. Oh, hi, Shannon. Shannon says, are there any certain red lights? Were you on our last episode, Shannon? We were just talking about all these. Are there any certain red lights you need to look for to get the benefits, or is any old red light good? Kevin and I just got one, but I want to make sure it's actually beneficial for us. That's funny. I was just looking at that. We posted a brand that was really good. Let me pull that back up here. And that was called Mito Red Light. And
Mito.
I'll share that again too. Or Mito. Yeah. Mito. So anything else we need to be looking for, Dr. Saunders?
No, we don't know that any old red light would work because the guy that actually won the Nobel Prize for discovering that red lights would heal wounds he was just using incandescent red lights, and incandescent red lights, the spectrum, they give you a pretty wide spectrum, whereas the ones now with the LEDs can put out an exact, you're getting 620 nanometers, of light, and that's all you're getting is that one wavelength of light. And so then there's these big arguments about which wavelength is better, the 640 or the 720, and it's not that easy, and they all do show some benefits. So probably any old red light would work, probably, but I don't know of any research on that.
Would
Okay,
it
another
matter what
question.
you're using it for?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Would it matter what you're using it for versus, in our article, we talk about using for facial acne versus deeper wound healing. Do you want a different wavelength for different things?
Yes. And that's why the article talks about that, using more of the shorter wavelengths for like surface things like acne, and for the deeper things, if you wanted to get into muscles, for example, you're going to need a longer wavelength, even infrared or near infrared.
Okay, a couple questions about cholesterol. Jamie had said red yeast rice, is it good for high cholesterol? And Jamie also said, what can you use for cholesterol? Have you watched The Cholesterol Myth? Episode number, no, I don't remember what number it was. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Dr.
Talk about it a lot.
Okay, so what you want to do for cholesterol is to get your cholesterol to be around 230, whatever that is. And so people ask, how do I get my cholesterol up if it's only 200 or 170? How do I get it up? And I don't know the answer to that. I think that the best way to do it is to eat good food, and not be so stressed. And then, do you need like things like red yeast rice extract? Is it red rice yeast or red yeast rice? Anyway, the extract is similar to Mevacor, which is a statin. And so, should you use that? There are cases where, that would be a useful thing to do. So if your cholesterol is 300, then, I would do that. I would actually use red yeast rice. And what else would you do? Well, there's something called bergamot. You could, it's a citrus, a penal extract, I think. And that can improve cholesterol. You could do a high fiber diet. So if you've ever read the book Fiber Fueled by Will Bolsheviks, he's a gastroenterologist, and he talks about how important fiber is for your intestines. But it also holds on to the bile acids, so you don't reabsorb them, and you make your bile acids out of cholesterol, and it does lower your cholesterol too, to have this extra fiber in your diet. So there are ways to lower cholesterol, but just keep in mind that everything you've been told about cholesterol is not true. That's what the cholesterol myth is.
Right. Jamie says, I love Dr. Saunders. Right?
Oh, thank you.
The best. Okay, Shannon said my TIBC is 363. How does that correlate to a percentage? You mentioned 20 over 30%.
Oh, yeah. So you look at how much iron you have, and then your iron binding capacity, TIBC, and then that gives you a percentage of how much of your iron is bound to that. And usually it'll say iron saturation, and then give you the number. All of the labs that I use give you the number, but you could get it from the iron level and the TIBC.
Okay. All right. Let me see. Any other questions that I have on here? What are triglycerides, Judy says?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. triglycerides. Tri means 3. Glyceride refers to fat. So you have 3 fats, and you have this glycerin or glycerol, which is 3 carbons, and then each one of those has a long chain fatty acid attached to it. So you have this 3 carbons with the long chain fatty acid. That's called a triglyceride. And then your body breaks those off and takes one of those and uses that to make energy. So the triglycerides are just the fats that are in your body. And if you look at a lot of things that you eat that have oils in them, there are triglycerides, and the oils that you're eating. So that's the way they come. They come in 3s. That's the way they're stored in your fat. And then your body cuts them off individually and takes them, the long chain fatty acid, and cuts it up into pieces, and then uses each one of those for energy, to make into or to convert to the energy of ATP. So what's interesting about triglycerides is when triglycerides are really high, what that means is your cells are not bringing fat in to be used for energy. When the triglycerides are really low, it means they are using fat for energy. So you actually want to have really low triglycerides because you want to use fat for energy. Fat is a better energy source than sugar. And I know we've been told just the opposite for so long. Oh, you need your complex carbs. You need those carbs. You need that starch. You need the sugar. Quick energy. That's how you get your energy, is sugar. Well, actually, yes and no. Yes, in the sense of it is quick energy, but no, in the sense it's not a long-term energy. It's really a short-term energy. And when it's used long-term, it causes inflammation. It causes oxidative damage to DNA and cells. Using fat for energy is so much better. So you want your triglycerides to be low, meaning you're burning fat for energy. And it seems like the best ratio is about 60% of your calories burned should come from fat and 40% from sugar. So eating sort of in that way and saying, oh, I should have, much less glucose. So the food pyramid, for example, is really not a good guide for eating. That's actually a marketing thing. That's the Archer's Daniels Midland marketing grains and cereals.
So how do you train your body to use triglycerides then? Or fat?
That's a good question. And that's the ketogenic diet. And that's what we do. So if you have phase 1 of the Diabetes Solution Kit, that's the purpose of phase 1, is to train your body to burn triglycerides instead of glucose. Another way to do it is fasting. You can fast for as long as you want. The more you have an empty stomach, the better off you are.
Sib says, does Dr. Saunders do ginkgo? His memory is unbelievable.
I don't do ginkgo, and there's a lot of things I don't remember. I have a memory for certain things. I can remember a lecture from medical school 40 years ago, but I'll tell you a little story about that. When I was in college, my best friend and his wife and me and my girlfriend drove from Utah to Los Angeles, stayed with my grandmother, and went to Disneyland. And then we just spent the weekend there and then drove back. And then, I was asked about that. Oh, don't you remember, when we went to Disneyland with your girlfriend? And I'm like, no, I didn't do that. And they go, yes, you did. I said, no, I was not there. I swear I was not there. I would remember that. And she showed me a picture of me and my girlfriend and my friends in front of at Disneyland. And I'm like, I still don't remember it. I don't remember that at all. And yet I can remember things from lectures. And so, it's like selective memory, I guess, is what it is. I remember that.
That's funny.
Dr. Saunders doesn't do ginkgo, but he does do fasting.
I do fasting.
Yes.
3 days once a month.
Mhm.
Jamie said, what do you use for a cough?
It depends on the reason for the cough. So if you're coughing because of allergies, like people have chronic cough from allergies, something like quercetin is a good choice for that. If you're coughing because of irritation, then things like alpha lipoic acid and N-acetylcysteine work well for that. If it's just like a temporary cough, like you had an infection or had a virus or something and you have a cough, then something like ivy leaf extract I found is one of the better cough syrups. I know there's a lot of other herbal cough syrups, but I've had pretty good results from ivy leaf. So that's what I recommend most of the time.
Barry said, I had read recently that statin drugs can be harmful to a healthy heart cardiovascular system. Is this true? And so I'm going to ask Dr. Saunders 2 questions first. Dr. Saunders, how long have you been a medical doctor?
Since 1992.
Okay, so that's a lot of years.
Yeah.
How many times have you prescribed statins?
Two times. I have two.
Isn't that crazy?
Two patients that needed to be on statins. So yeah, familial hypercholesterolemia is a rare genetic disorder, and I've seen a couple of cases.
Okay. So why do you think that statins, so Barry's asking, can statins be harmful to your heart and cardiovascular system? Is that kind of what you subscribe to, or why don't you?
Yeah, okay. So something that is so essential to your function, cholesterol is not well, first of all, it's not a villain. And second of all, it's not even like a benign thing that's not supposed to be there. If I were to take all the cholesterol out of your body, you would die faster than if I took all the oxygen out of your body. You can live without oxygen for a lot longer than you can live without cholesterol. Cholesterol is essential for so many functions. You can't make a single cell, not even one cell in your body can be made without cholesterol. And your hormones, all your steroid hormones require cholesterol. CoQ10 requires cholesterol. You can't make energy without cholesterol. It's like so essential to the functioning of the body that the cholesterol myth is really damaging. Yeah, it does damage the heart. It damages the brain. It damages the liver. It damages everything. And that's why there were some statins they had to take off the market. They were so potent, they just started killing people. And they're not healthy. So why would anybody take them? Well, you know what? If you have familial hypercholesterolemia and you have way too much, and it's depositing all over your body, then and I don't mean just like in the blood vessels, that you actually get deposits like in your skin and on your tendons, and then you need some way to stop that from happening, and statins are wonderful for that. So there is a use for statins, and it's a really good use. But see, when drug companies make something, they say, wow, this is really good for this purpose. But there's so few people that have that, we're not going to make very much money. So why don't we just like make it available to everyone and say, well, everybody should take this. And it's not just statins. They do that with blood pressure medications. They do that with the supplement companies are doing it now. Like what was the new NAD plus is and all the peptides, like all the injectable peptides. They're like, oh, everybody should be on this. This is really awesome. It's really good for these people, but then they generalize it like, yeah, everybody should be taking this. Why? It's just to enlarge their market. That's all it is. And statins, they did the same thing just to enlarge their market. There is an appropriate market, and then there's everybody else that doesn't need it, which is the majority.
Okay, someone had asked if I could print the names of the cough medicines that Dr. Saunders just mentioned. And I'm actually just going to send a link in the chat for this video because I didn't write them down. Okay, sorry. Rita said for a long while I thought cough was from blood pressure meds. That's interesting.
Well, there are a series of blood pressure medications, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, ACEI, and those do cause cough. And some people get a chronic cough from taking those medications. And if you do, the cough will not go away until you stop taking the medication.
Okay. Let's see.
So taking a cough suppressant, in other words, is not going to be useful if that's why you're coughing.
Rita had said, I had a cough for many years. Now find out it's a symptom of sarcoidosis.
Sarcoidosis.
Yes, which I had diagnosed.
Yep, chronic cough, sarcoidosis. See, that's what I meant. So what do you do for cough? Is a question that shouldn't be asked. It's why am I coughing? And because when you know why, then you'll know what to do for it. So sarcoidosis, for example, is a abnormal collection of protein deposits that are in the lungs, and it could be anywhere. You can get sarcoidosis in your heart, in your liver, you can get it anywhere in your body. And these abnormal protein deposits are waste proteins, is what they are. And the best way to get rid of them is fasting. When you have an empty stomach and you start doing, after about 2 days of fasting, you start something called autophagy. And autophagy is where your body is self-phagy eating. You're eating yourself. And what that means is all of the dead tissue, all the sarcoid proteins, all the senescent cells, your immune system is going around and cleaning them up and digesting them and spitting out the amino acids so you can have amino acids because you're not eating any. And then all the cholesterol deposits in your arteries, they're being cleaned out because that cholesterol is needed and you're not eating any. So when you're not eating, all of the junk in your body gets cleared out, including sarcoid. So it's interesting because they have a new drug for sarcoidosis. So now they're advertising to doctors, oh, you got to test for sarcoidosis. This is a really important thing to test for. Everybody should have this test to find out if they have sarcoidosis. So they can spend $10,000 on this new drug for sarcoidosis. And guess what? Fasting is free. It's a better way, much better way.
Which says I'm on the end of a 3-day fast and had an episode of extreme fatigue, then a spike from 89 to 139 that lasted about 30 minutes. Any idea?
Yeah. Okay, extreme fatigue is probably hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. And by the way, that's a good thing. And then what happened is you released a whole bunch of glucagon because of the low blood sugar. And the glucagon tells your liver, hey, make a bunch of sugar. And then the liver just pumped out sugar into your blood. And then you made some cortisol, some stress hormones because of that severe fatigue. And that makes you resistant to insulin. So you're making insulin, and then you're making sugar, and then your blood sugar goes up. So you know what? That's the system. It's okay. And you just let it be and do that several times. And after a while, that won't happen anymore. You won't get hypoglycemia. You'll just switch to fat burning instantly. You're not even going to drop your blood sugar.
Hopefully that answered Rita's question. Can I fast being diabetic?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fasting is probably type 1 diabetes. You have to be really careful with fasting if you have type 1 diabetes. In fact, I think one of the best things that a type 1 diabetic can have is one of those continuous glucose monitors. And then you can fast with a continuous glucose monitor because it's going to tell you when you're dropping too low or when you're getting too high. You can set the range for where you want it to be. But I think a CGM has opened up new vistas for type 1 diabetics. Type 2 diabetics can fast anytime they want because their type 2 diabetes is too much. And so fasting is getting rid of that too much.
Okay,
Thanks.
that's it for today, Dr. Saunders. We're out of time. Go bless your patients.
All right.
We'll see you next week. Thank you, Cheryl. And all of you, head to bartonwebinar.com, find out more information, and use code webinar25 to save 25%. That's it for us.